Tonight, a rural Central Texas hospital announcing layoffs and service changes. Leaders with St. Mark's Hospital in LaGrange say this will help them deal with a long-standing financial issue. KVUE's Ford Sanders joins us in studio tonight. And Ford, this has been an ongoing issue for rural hospitals throughout the state.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. Well, a recent report showed that 1 in 4 rural hospitals in Texas face closure as we come out of the pandemic. Well, last Friday, we brought you a special report about the staffing, funding, and morale issues our local hospitals are facing. And the very next day is when St. Mark's started cutting major services.
There was a lot of federal help, state help, private donations coming in, people doing anything they could to keep the hospitals open.
Help that has now come to an end. St. Mark's and LaGrange announcing 64 layoffs to their staff and crucial services being cut. Craig Moreau, the emergency management coordinator for the town of Fayetteville, says this will be a big adjustment.
They're not going to have very many or any inpatient people that if you came into the ER and you need some long-term care, you're probably going to have to be shipped out.
The hospital is now pursuing what's called a rural emergency hospital designation to focus much of its efforts on ER services. This means inpatient services, surgical services, and more are being scrapped from the hospital's lineup. It comes as rural hospitals are already facing a 1 in 4 risk of closure, something we previously spoke with the Texas Organization of Rural and Community Hospitals about.
When you find yourself needing services and you're a long way from care, obviously outcomes are worse. The second thing that we don't talk about enough is just the importance of a rural hospital to local economic development. It's generally 170 good jobs with family-oriented staff that go to the local school district and shop at the local grocery store and bank.
Which is something Moreau says will have a large impact on his community.
64 families that have lost one or their only breadwinner is a big deal for a community like ours.
And he says hospitals like St. Mark's are doing their best to hold on.
They are short-staffed. They've run out of some of the COVID funding. It's just a huge impact for everyone.
We tell people that our hospitals limped into the pandemic. They've survived, thankfully, but they're going to limp out of the pandemic.
They worry that dialing back certain services like this could hurt patients.
Delays of care when it comes to anything to do with your vascular system, your heart, your brain, those delays in care equal deaths.
And board members for St. Mark's Hospital released statements about these changes. Chair Dudley Pylan wrote in part, "For the decade that I've served on the St. Mark's board, we have struggled to make ends meet, including considering bankruptcy on more than one occasion."
Ford, you touched on it there in your story with some of these services cut. What does it mean for patients there?
Yeah, Brian, well, it's important to remind viewers, like you said, this is what it is, cutting services, not closing down. However, cutting things like inpatient and surgical services, well, that can be huge. And for patients in the area, this means any of those extended care needs, well, it's now going to need to be done by a hospital that's farther away.
Important story tonight. Thank you very much. Ford Sanders live here in the studio with us tonight.